Right. For typography, what you're going to see is like, you know, in my life as I get older, I'm down to about 11 or 12 typefaces that are really my go-to guys, right? And then if something needs to get a little more letter set, there's a whole other pocket of stuff I go after. What's appropriate for the project? Well, that's what you have to figure out. So if your name is Draplin or whatever the hell it's going to be, you go look at things that look like they came from Eastern Europe, right? So you have to go do a little research to see what those typefaces might be, and then what sort of an English version would be, because they're just drafting off. And yes, for this stuff, you start going down this sort of Walt Disney looking, like Alpine shit, and that's fine, because it does feel European. Don't mix and match 14 of those things. You only need 2, and maybe 3. And then use them sparingly in a proper set of rules and hierarchy. You let the big one be big, and let all the little supporting stuff, wither on down to where it's just small stuff. Okay, so just know your hierarchy. If you have thick lines throughout your thing, go find a typeface that's thick, right? It's about taking a quick graze and saying, what are the parameters of that piece of type? And everyone has a couple things: sharp points, round points, thick, thin. What's appropriate for the problem? How do we put a piece of type on this thing? And that's what the world is incredible about. This design typographic world, is that there's a skrillion things to pick from. Okay, so now we're going to come to the typography section. So listen, it was shapes and simple forms, making complex stuff, but all along the way, really trying to keep it simple and uniform and fun, right? So now we're gonna put a little bit of type on this stuff. Just keep it fun, when you look at this thing and I say, okay, let's go plop a big old Draplin on here. Well, I've already been playing with that one, but let's just, what's gonna come out of your mouse, is, I don't know, some kind of like, whatever your default is. Let's just say it's just some kind of like Helvetica, right? And that's just not gonna feel right. Well, first of all, we can go look back here and say, well, we've got this piece of type. Let's just make sure that it feels like the little crest that we've built so far. So what that means is you don't want to put something on here that is going to be super wispy, we'll just say, right? So you don't want something that's going to feel unlike the rest of the weight, right? So make simple decisions. That's just not going to cut it. What if it's some sort of collegiate, sort of uppercase thing? I guess what I'm doing here is I'm talking a little too much, but you get the idea. Go and experiment, and try some stuff. And something's starting to happen. It feels kind of, collegiate and sort of official, But let's pull out one off to the side and let's go try something a little bit more, There's this one here that was feeling really good, and it felt kind of old country, and it was this Tannenberg Fett. So let's just go with that, right? So now, that said, when you plop it in there, now you have to kind of look like the weight there, and this dark here, and this weight here, it all feels pretty good, right? It all feels pretty good, and you're just kind of going to start massaging these things, right? And keep track of all that riffraff. Just put it somewhere, put it away, get it out of the way. But now we can kind of start, step back and say, okay, now what are the things that are like feeling good? Like this thing's feeling pretty good, right? So maybe Shift Command O, outline, right? And now when you outline that thing and you group it so that now they're just shapes, and take this thing and say, let's go apply that arc. We'll go back to your arc and let's take a look. Now it kind of messes with the scale of it, right? You see how it kind of pinches it? Because you just want that thing to follow that line. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to just, that's not going to cut it. Maybe that worked for those shapes there. Instead, we're just going to go grab this line right here. Just grab your white tool, grab that little arrow guy. Just grab the line. So you just got the line now. Now go color it something that you can see, right? Let's just go with that Kresge Kmart turquoise. And now go get your little type on a line, type on a path tool, click it on there, and type a big old Draplin on there, or whatever your last name is, the Fenkel clan. And now you're starting to see that thing starting to feel pretty good, man. It's feeling pretty good. Give it a little space to breathe. And remember, we can tune all that stuff up, and you can kind of take this. Now watch. You can take your path and screw with it, and your type is going to kind of go around it. So let's just say if we just did this real quick and just messed with it. Be careful, though. Be careful. Because if you look, that might be just the path that you're messing with, or you're screwing with like the width and stuff. And don't mess with the width on any of this stuff, right? So that little guy feels pretty good there. And there's some opportunities, right? So what if we went here, and remember, this is a big one. you're only going to need, really any project, I would say, 2 to 3 typefaces, you know? And I'll, you know, of course, I'll just go back to my old Futura Bold. I love it. It's been, you know, the bedrock of bad design and manuals and just everything else good in the world that, you know, was overlooked. And I'll grab some of that stuff, and maybe there's something to it, you know, and just, you know, allowing it to just be a couple little pieces, and we'll just plop a couple little, you know, Draplin family or something. I don't know, the Draplin family. So this just becomes sort of extra, a little bit extra verbiage. Cool. And of course, keeping in mind that all this shit needs to be centered, you know, at all times and stuff. But there's something starting to happen there. Now you can kind of mess with the scale because, you know, it's like it needs to feel like it, the hierarchy, that's the first thing you see. Okay. And then, you know, let's fill up some of these spaces with some more stuff. So it doesn't have to be super filigree or lions or tigers or helmets or whatever the hell. Let's just go back and look at our world. So if our world was, you know, Drapawa brand or old country or whatever you want to call it, and yet, you know, Joseph and Josephine, my grandpa Joe and my grandma Josie, well, maybe there's just something there. So we'll go back here and let's just go back into our little guy and let's just put some stuff on there. So let's grab a little piece of type here and let's, you know, make it white so you can see it. And let's do Joe and Josie. So that's a tribute to my grandma and my grandpa. So we'll go back up here because this is, you did your research, and that woman used to say acha macha kacha and some other shit. But we'll grab that, want the same flavor. Grab your little eyedropper and just go touch that thing, okay? And now what you're getting is you're getting, you know, you're just getting a little bit of like, you know, difference. You know, you can kind of give it a little more, you know, give it a little more lead and put that stuff out there. But, you know, now we've got some extra noise in there, and it's like it's starting to happen. You know, you're filling up these spaces. Let's go get a Detroit, Michigan on there, and here's how you trick this. Instead of just taking any old line like this guy, and we want a little Detroit, Michigan along the bottom here, here's how you do it. Ungroup that piece, and we're going to do an offset path, because we want the perfect line to relay that, you know, Detroit, Michigan on there. Offset path, which I have it set up in my little key commands, but just go offset path. Let's just say -3 point. Let's just see where it puts us. That's too far in. Offset -1 point, okay? So that puts us in this little zone here. Now give it a better, so you can see it, you know, you can see it. And all we're doing is we're just trying to get to this nice line. Okay, so I think we're there. Now, go and you can just do it a couple ways. Touch that 1 point, Command X, delete all the other shit, Command F, that line goes in there. Now you've got a nice arc now to go put your type on there. So grab your little, what's it called here, the old type on a path tool, and then give it the right size, give it a little bit of tracking, and you see how nicely that fits in there? Like that's it. And now when you pull back, you can see how that thing really fits in there nicely, right? And you can kind of massage that thing because it feels like it's a little bit right, you know, but you can just kind of pull it over a little bit. So what we're doing here is like the visual quality of like what you're reading. This thing might even be able to get a little thicker, you know, and get a little bit bigger. But, you know, you're starting to lay these things in there. And let's just go throw one little stupid more piece. I want to, you know, this attention Kmart shopper shit on there. Let's go get that in there somewhere. That was a big one for my dad. And I know he'd get a kick out of that we had that in there. And let's just plop that in there. And maybe just the way to do that is just, you know, center it along the bottom. You know, as we lay this thing in here, we kind of say, damn, you know, look at all that stuff. We got weird type. We've got little type. We've got a big old family in there and stuff. And it's like, you know, we've got pierogies for grandma's pierogies. Now look at the width is a little weird on those guys. So let's just go isolate them and get to those, right? And bring those down just a hair, right? Okay, that feels a little better. So we're just optically making sure that shit all works. And, you know, there's a lot of cool things you could do. You could say here, well, I just want one more line here, you know? And those points are just a little too weird. And let's just say we do this just a little bit. And that just feels a little bit more like water now, right? And just take these guys and just quickly, you know, whatever, just scrunch them in there. And you can, you know, just kind of say there's a vocabulary going on now. We've got like some line work over here. We've got some little, you know, Detroit on the water. And then we've got, you know, a little pierogi steaming up here. Some Joe and Josie, what my grandma used to yell at us and stuff. And then, you know, some fun stuff, attention Kmart shoppers.